Hey guys! Tonight, we step into a world of sand, gold, and rules that sound completely ridiculous at first glance. A world where priests shave off their eyebrows, where cats are more protected than people, and where the Pharaoh cannot let a single hair touch the ground. But here's the question that changes everything. What if every single one of those weird rules actually saved lives? What if the strangest Egyptian laws were not about control, but about survival? And what if understanding them today makes you see ancient history completely differently? Before we uncover the answers, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Little Historical. It helps more curious minds find these stories. And let me know in the comments, what's the weirdest rule you've ever heard of? Now, dim the lights, take a slow breath, and let's begin. You have already removed every visible hair from your body. Head, beard, arms, legs, even the delicate curve of your eyebrows. And now, standing in the heavy heat of an Egyptian morning, you wonder if this is some kind of spiritual test. But it is not. The blade in your hand is not a symbol of devotion. It is a shield. Because here, along the Nile, the air is thick with dust, the river teems with invisible life, and your own skin is the only thing standing between you and a very uncomfortable end. The priests noticed something long ago, without microscopes, without laboratories. They noticed that the men who stayed smooth, who removed every hair with obsessive care, simply did not fall sick as often. The ones who kept their hair, who let stubble grow, who looked more human and less like polished stone, those men itched. They scratched. They developed fevers that came from nowhere and sometimes never left. And the Egyptians, brilliant observers that they are, connected the dots. Hair traps sweat. Sweat attracts insects. Insects carry disease. It is that simple and that brutal. So the rule was never about vanity. It was never about pleasing the gods with a strange kind of beauty. It was about survival in a world where a single flea could end your story. But there is something else, something darker beneath the surface. Because to shave your entire body, every single day, means you are constantly reminded of your own fragility. You cannot hide behind hair. You cannot pretend that you are not vulnerable. The blade tells you the truth every morning. You are soft, exposed, and one small mistake away from infection. That is the hidden tension of this rule. It does not just keep you clean. It keeps you humble. It keeps you aware that your body is a temporary thing, a vessel that must be maintained with discipline, or it will betray you. And yet, even after all that shaving, after all that ritual, you still cannot see the real enemy. The parasites, the bacteria, the tiny threats that move through the air and water like ghosts. The Egyptians never saw them, but they felt their effects. And that is what makes this rule so strangely wise. They did not need to understand germs. They only needed to understand patterns. And the pattern told them, hair is the enemy. Remove it, and you live longer. Keep it, and you take a risk you cannot afford. So you shave. Not for the gods. Not for beauty. For the quiet, unspoken promise that tomorrow you will wake up again. And as the razor moves across your skin, you feel the weight of that choice. Smooth. Exposed. Still breathing. Now, with your body bare and your skin tingling, you begin to understand that this is only the first layer of protection. Because there is another creature in Egypt, far smaller than you, far softer, yet far more powerful. And the rules about that creature, those are even stranger. That creature, of course, is the cat. But do not let the soft fur or the gentle purr fool you. In ancient Egypt, the cat is not a pet. It is a weapon. And the rule is simple, absolute, and enforced without mercy. You do not harm a cat. Not accidentally. Not in self-defense. Not even when it scratches you for the third time that morning and looks at you as if you are the one who does not belong. If you hurt a cat, the consequences are severe. Some say severe enough that you might not see another sunrise. And at first, this sounds like superstition, like the worship of a furry little god. But watch closely. Watch what happens in the grain stores when the cats are present. And watch what happens when they are gone. Because Egypt's wealth, its very survival, depends on grain. Grain that is under constant attack from rats, mice, and snakes. Creatures that breed fast, eat everything, and carry diseases that can wipe out a village before anyone understands what is happening. The cat is the only thing standing between the harvest and total collapse. One cat can kill dozens of rats in a single night. A dozen cats can protect an entire city. So when the rule says do not harm the cat, It is not speaking about animal rights. It is speaking about food security, about the thin line between feast and famine. But there is a darker truth beneath this law, a truth that hovers in the shadows of every Egyptian home. The cats know they are protected, and they behave accordingly. They walk into your house without asking. They sleep on your belongings. They watch you with eyes that seem to see things you cannot. And you tolerate it, not because you love them, though many do, but because you fear what would happen if you did not. Because if you harm a cat, you are not just breaking a law. You are inviting the rats back. You are inviting the snakes. You are inviting the diseases that follow them like loyal servants. And in a world where medicine is a mix of herbs and prayers, that invitation is a death sentence. So you step carefully around the cat. You feed it even when you are hungry yourself. You accept that your home is no longer entirely yours. And late at night, when you hear the soft padding of paws on the floor, you feel a strange mixture of resentment and relief. Because that sound means the rats are staying away. That sound means you will wake up tomorrow. The cat does not love you. It does not need to. It has something far more powerful than love. It has the law. And the law says you cannot touch it. But what happens when the untouchable is not a cat, but a man? What happens when the most powerful person in Egypt walks among you, yet you are forbidden from even getting close enough to feel his breath? That rule is stranger still, and far more dangerous to break. That rule begins the moment the Pharaoh enters the room. You feel it before you see it, a shift in the air, a sudden stillness among the crowd. Every eye drops, every knee bends, and you learn very quickly that you do not approach him. You do not speak unless spoken to, and above all, you never, ever touch him. Not a hand on the shoulder, not a brush of fabric, not even the accident of a crowded hallway. Because the Pharaoh is not a man. He is a living God, a bridge between the divine and the dust. And gods, even walking gods, do not get touched by ordinary hands. At first, this feels like ego, like the tantrum of a king who demands to be treated as more than human. But watch closely at how the servants move around him. They do not just keep their distance. They study the floor for fallen hairs. They follow him with cloths to catch his sweat before it drips. They burn everything that separates from his body. And you begin to wonder, what are they so afraid of? The answer is darker than you might imagine. Because in Egypt, your hair, your sweat, your saliva, these are not just biological waste. They are pieces of you. And in the wrong hands, those pieces can be used against you. A single strand of hair, dropped carelessly, could end up in the home of an enemy. A drop of sweat could be mixed into a poison that targets you and only you. The Egyptians did not have DNA testing, but they understood something just as powerful. Whatever comes from your body carries your essence, and your essence can be stolen. So the rule is not about divine privilege. It is about absolute security. The Pharaoh cannot be vulnerable. Not because he is weak, but because his weakness would collapse the entire kingdom. If he falls sick, if he is cursed, if he dies unexpectedly, the order of the world trembles. The Nile might not flood. The crops might fail. The enemies might attack. Everything depends on his continued, uninterrupted breathing. So you keep your distance. You let the servants burn his hair. You watch his sweat get wiped away like evidence of a crime. And you understand, perhaps for the first time, that power is not about freedom. Power is about isolation. The Pharaoh sits at the center of everything, and yet he is completely alone. No one touches him. No one holds him. No one knows what his skin feels like. He is untouchable in the most literal sense. And late at night, when the palace is quiet and the guards are at their posts, you wonder if he ever longs for a simple hand on his shoulder. You wonder if he ever wants to be treated like an ordinary man. But that is impossible. Because the moment he becomes ordinary, the illusion cracks. And without the illusion, Egypt falls. So the distance remains. The rules remain. And you step back, even when every instinct tells you to step closer. Now, with the Pharaoh safely untouchable and his secrets locked behind layers of ritual, you begin to notice something even stranger. The food on your table, the fish from the sacred Nile, is not all the same. Some of it is forbidden. And the reason why will make you question every meal you have ever eaten. That forbidden fish sits on the edge of your plate, glistening and innocent, and yet every Egyptian knows you do not eat it. Not because it tastes bad. Not because it is scarce. But because something about this particular creature has been labeled unclean, untouchable, a violation of the natural order. And at first, you assume this is religious superstition, another rule made by priests who see spirits in every shadow. But then you watch what happens to the people who ignore the warning. They do not fall sick immediately. That is the cruel trick. They eat the fish, they smile, they think the priests were wrong. And then, days later, sometimes weeks, a fever begins to creep into their bones. Their stomach twists. Their skin turns pale. And some of them never recover. The Egyptians do not know about bacteria. They do not know about parasites. But they have watched this pattern repeat for generations. The same fish, the same sickness, the same slow unraveling of the body. And they have done something remarkable with that observation. They have turned it into law. Certain fish, especially those that feed on the bottom of the Nile, on waste, on decaying matter, on things that should not enter the human body, those fish are forbidden. Not because the gods said so, though that is the story told to children, but because the Egyptians learned, the hard way, that some food carries death inside it. And here is the tension that never leaves your mind. You cannot see the danger. The fish looks fine. It smells fine. The man selling it smiles and tells you it is fresh. But somewhere beneath the surface, invisible and patient, the thing that killed your neighbor is waiting. So you follow the rule. Not out of fear of punishment, out of fear of what you cannot see. And every time you eat a meal, every time you take a bite of something pulled from the Nile, you feel a small pulse of uncertainty. Is this the safe one? Or is this the one that will slowly, quietly, end your story? The priests do not explain the science. They do not need to. They simply say, do not eat this fish. And you obey, because you have seen the alternative. You have watched a strong man turn into a ghost over 2 weeks. You have heard the coughing in the night. You have smelled the sickness on the air. So you let the forbidden fish swim away. You choose the safer catch. And you whisper a small prayer of thanks that someone, somewhere, paid attention to the pattern. Now, with your body shaved, your cats respected, your distance from the Pharaoh maintained, and your plate free of danger, you might think you have mastered survival in ancient Egypt. But there is one more rule, the strangest of all, and it involves something you cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot escape. The invisible force that holds everything together. And without it, none of these rules would matter at all.